an eyewitness, filmed it on camera, and she does a wonderful documentary in her own right on the Phoenix Lights and talks to many, many different people who witnessed the phenomena. And this was a huge shaped craft, perhaps a mile wide, boomerang-shaped craft that flew silently from one corner of the state to the other over a period of hours. It's not Project Blue Beam. It's not some sort of hallucination. It's not flares from, warthogs, airplanes. Too many people saw this thing. Lynn Dickey, who is, I'm sure is listening. Lynn, thank you. She was a UFO contactee who came out of the phenomena. And in some ways, she contacted me a few years back, and we talked, and that led her down a different path, and she came to Christ and now goes on radio shows and talking about trying to warn people about the experience that that she went through. So that's sort of what the book is about. That's sort of a quick overview, a thumbnail sketch, if you please. Dr. Wanger, who's a professional synologist, he's been studying the Shroud of Turin for decades. He comes on with a wonderful, insightful interview regarding the Shroud of Turin, and that's how I sort of tie all this together at the end.
All right, I have a question about the Shroud of Turin. Do you believe that the Shroud of Turin may be dangerous in the aspect that when objects tend to be, I guess, perceived as of supernatural origin, they tend to become the object of worship more so than Christ? Do you believe that it's dangerous in that aspect, that if it is real, that it may be worshipped and take worship away from Christ instead of drawing worship to him?
Well, that's always a danger, isn't it? And that's what, even the way they display it, they'll usually get upwards of, hundreds of thousands of pilgrims who will come and just look at this thing, and it's venerated. And I don't, again, look, I would go to it and I would just be excited to see it because it's like forensic evidence of not only the crucifixion but the resurrection. I call it God's calling card. Like I said, I would not kneel before it and worship the cloth. I mean, the cloth is just evidence of what really happened, and obviously it's important evidence, and it would be phenomenal to actually see the cloth up close and personal. But if anything, I would fall to my knees, lift my hands, and begin to worship the one true God and thank him. You see, that's what it should do. It should move us to real worship, not worship the cloth, but worship Yahshua, worship Jesus, and thank him for the sacrifice, the atonement on Calvary, because that's what it shows. And then thank the Father for the resurrection, which is the same power that's going to happen to us when we are raptured. It's a form of resurrection. According to Dame Pixick, who's a physicist, she's also a muralist. So she looks at the shroud and examines the shroud from two unique perspectives. According to Dame Pixick, it would appear that the sort of a reverse Big Bang, and these are her words, a reverse Big Bang dematerialized the shroud instantaneously in just infinite points of light, which created the image on the shroud. So we're looking at a physics which we know nothing about. We're looking at a physics that apply in another dimension, which are completely foreign to us and break the laws of the space-time that Einstein and others have delved into. It's just bizarre stuff. But it speaks of the Creator and how he's able to take us and translate our bodies literally in a twinkling of an eye, in the same way that he did with Jesus when he rose him from the dead. It's fascinating stuff. But yes, there's always that danger. Recently, the Vatican displayed St. Anthony's bones. I mean, this is just insanity to me. Again, all due respect to Catholics, it's so macabre and so whacked out. Why do I want to look at these dead man's bones? I mean, this is like, the Pharisees coming back to life. Dead man's bones, whitewashed tombs. What are you doing with these things? You're missing the whole point. You're not getting it. You're obfuscating the good news of the gospel. I mean, completely obfuscating it, and by throwing us this ridiculous skeleton of a godly man. What does this have to do with anything? And that's why I take great umbrage in all this kind of nonsense, because it does, in fact, take people away from looking at, the truth and life, and that is Yahshua, that is Jesus. And if the shroud ever does that, and I'm sure it does, it's unfortunately it's wrong. But people do what they do.
That's
All right.
true.
Go ahead, Brother BJ.
No, I was saying that's true. I mean, people, they take things, they shoot whatever they choose to venerate, whether it's a crucifix or, a picture or whatever,
Sure.
They like you said, they just can't receive the point of the act that was done, the supernatural act that was done, and that we're supposed to worship out of faith and love, and not to have all these, these, like you said, these saints and these, these things, these graven images that God, clearly tells us not to, not to worship.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about the perception you mentioned earlier about you were involved in the New Age movement and believing that these beings were brotherly beings.
Sure.
What do you believe the motive is behind presenting these things as brotherly beings so early on?
Well, I mean, what it does, without without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, this is what I call, and have come to call, the alien gospel. And the alien gospel is this: that the aliens created all life on this planet. They genetically manipulated us from early primitive man. They created our civilizations. They started the world's religions. We were the gods that they were the gods that our ancestors worshipped in antiquity. Now they are back at this critical juncture in human evolution to bring us into the next paradigm, the new paradigm, the new world order. And that is the alien gospel. And I talk about this incessantly, warn people of this. When they show up, when they really manifest, that's what that's how they'll be perceived, which will cause a great falling away that we're talking about in 2 Thessalonians. When Jesus himself warns that the elect would be deceived if that were possible, that's one of the most sobering statements in all of the guidebook to the supernatural, i.e. the Bible. I mean, it's so sobering. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible? Oh my gosh, what is coming? And they've laid it all down. I mean, Darwinism is certainly a link, isn't it? In fact, the missing link will be E.T. And everyone will go, oh my gosh, look, they did it. This is why the movie Knowing that came out last year was so, in my opinion, so appalling. It was a direct frontal attack against what Christians believe. The fact of in fact, I did this at the last lecture I was at too, at Cheyenne. I asked them what differentiates the Bible from any other book on this planet, and it usually, this was a very smart audience, very smart. Thanks. If any of you guys are listening, hats off to all you people in Cheyenne. It was a great conference, and you're really with it. But a couple people, said Jesus. And I said, no, that's not it, because every holy book on the planet has their hero, so it's not it. Finally, someone said prophecy, and then other people said prophecy, and I said, you nailed it. And that's exactly what differentiates the guidebook of the supernatural from any other book on the planet, is that thread of prophecy. In Isaiah, we hear the Most High God tell us that I'm the only one, I'm paraphrasing here, the only one who can call out the future and from the past and differentiate between the two and tell it before it happens. I'm the only one who can do it. The only one who can do it. And he is, which is why biblical prophecy is 100% accurate 100% of the time, and differentiates the book from any other book on the planet. Because all we have to do is look at Israel, alive in the homeland, and the fact that Jerusalem, for almost 2,000 years, almost 2 millennia, was trampled over by the Gentiles, and now no longer is. Unbelievable. Prophecy being fulfilled right under our noses, 1967. Yet most people have no idea. Most people on this planet have no idea that prophecy was fulfilled, which is sad.
Absolutely correct.
One thing, we can't have this conversation without touching on this subject. And my mom used to tell me about this, because this was actually before my time when V first came out. I remember after the series had already ended, she told me she had nightmares about it. Huh. Now that it's back on TV, I noticed the way that they do the commercials. The commercials come on after regular TV shows. The woman announces herself as a visitor, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't look like the average TV commercial. Do you think that is part of the desensitization